With this, I'd like to invite the chief guest of the summit, Sri Sanjeev Jaiswal, Principal Secretary, Water Supply and Sanitation Department, Govt of Maharashtra. A huge round of applause for him, please.
Thank you. A nice introductory given by Akrul and Amitanshu. I welcome everyone from Shinder, APAC News, my colleagues Abhishek, Rishikesh, Mahajan, Chintamani, Kolte, officers from the Water Supply Department, other representatives and friends. Two structured presentation followed by another presentation. Should it be structured or unstructured is the big question going on in my mind. So I decide for playing the football match without any plans. So no structured presentation, and it would be more of a, so I just close this iPad if it is all right for some time. Perfect. It was budging into me. So basically I decided that I let it be a non-structured presentation on sustainability of water. Obviously it's a subject that if one starts talking about, then maybe hours and days would also fall short. But I would just try to run a synopsis in terms of where we are, what we should do, and what are the challenges as far as water management is concerned in this country as a whole. And obviously, speaking about Maharashtra, being the secretary, would like to mention some aspects regarding that. So water, obviously everyone knows what is water, why water is needed, what is the importance of water, what would be the future if there is a scarcity of water, in future maybe conflicts, wars, fights, everything would be related either to water or related to land as the population grows. So here we're talking about something which is a very scarce natural resource and yet very important for the daily survival, whether it's you or me, whether it is rural or urban. Over the years, speaking on the efforts taken to provide affordable drinking water to the masses, both in the urban and the rural areas, Government of India and the respective state governments have embarked upon various programs, whether it was the NRDWP or the Accelerated Rural Water Supply Scheme, Jal Swaraj, Jal Dhara, and now finally we have come to Jal Jeevan Mission. A very, very big flagship program with a very ambitious goal to provide 55 liters of good quality drinking water to the rural masses. Having said that, for the urban areas, obviously the norms of 135 LPCD remains. JJM, what it is, how we are faring, I think Rishikesh will try to give a run through of that. But just giving an abstract of where Maharashtra stands under Jal Jeevan Mission with an outlay of around 40,000 crores for the whole state, rural. Fortunately, with the efforts of everyone, we have been able to achieve a position where out of the 37,000 odd schemes to be implemented in the mission period, we stand today as I speak around 99.5% DPR ready and almost around 67% work orders given. And if everything goes as planned, then maybe by the November end or the mid of December, I think it will be one of the few states which will be achieving 100% work orders, barring those states which had put the mission period in 2022. This is what happens in an unstructured presentation. The moment you try to, you raise the clap, and I feel that I don't want the clap right now, so I extend the line to it to see to it stops. Okay. So let's speak something which is different and yet related to the topic that we are all sitting here today. Now, ideally speaking, there shouldn't be much of a rocket science involved when you say that provide water. Water is available. We see so much of the land mass and the the whole world mass with water around everywhere in the sea, ocean. Pata nahi kahan pe. What is the problem? Why is water not available to each and everyone for the quantity that he or she demands? Reasons are obvious that the level of potable water that is available vis-a-vis the demand and as the population grows. So like maybe around say 40, 50 years back, maybe as an administrator, I don't think water would have been a focus area. ठीक है गांव में पानी नहीं है, dug a well, construct a borewell, कुछ कर दो, आ जाएगा पानी. Groundwater recharge was good. And now we are facing challenges where it is the supply side which has become the biggest concern. Demand will increase. But what about the supply? There's constraint of sites where you can have surface water tapping. The groundwater has been depleted to the extent because of obviously extraction for not only drinking purposes but even for agricultural and industrial purposes, whereby The levels have gone down so much that the scheme which was originally envisaged or designed based on a particular depth of the groundwater, the water table has gone almost 2 times below. So you have a scheme, but water is not there. Surface waters was the solution. If you have a good catchment, definitely yes. But then there is where the politics start coming. You build a dam, you build a check dam anywhere. Now, traditionally speaking, you should see what is the total rainfall in the catchment, the precipitation. The moment someone sees that water can be tapped here, so what's the best way to ensure that downstream the capacity is not filled up? Build another on the upstream. So it's just the wrong approach. So instead of coming from top to down, you're going from down to top. Third is, over the years, because it was available everywhere, and the moment is it's a vote bank issue. If any village or any part of the city is in a situation where water is not available, it's but natural that the voters out there will say, "We'll not vote for the people in power." So we have to make available water irrespective of how it is made available, without really focusing upon that whether the consumption is as good, to see that the recharge is equally decent enough. And that's where the problem starts. So surface water limitations in terms of catchment areas, wrong planning and execution by tapping, not in the sense going on the, not seeing the watershed as a whole and having a micro concept and building structures, and groundwater, the depletion leading to failure of schemes. So you see that there are many villages which have had not one, not two, but three schemes in the last 50, 60 years. So there's not a single village in this country, at least in the state, where one can say that there has never been a scheme planned. But even today, tankers are given. Even today, in the peak summers, the water availability out there, or the women folk have to walk down 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, Deuce Channel. They just are waiting for this, where they can see a parched well and people just trying to jump into it and taking the water with the buckets, or women walking with on their heads with this storage, whatever water they're carrying. Now, if this is the problem, what's the solution? So the solution is definitely that till we bring in the realization of a judicious and a very economic consumption of water, I don't see the problem being solved, in spite of pumping in almost 4 lakh crores in the Jal Jeevan mission. Concepts like, having electrochronators, IoT, and, monitoring the scheme, everything is fine. I do appreciate the presentation made by Shinder, and, obviously these are the need of the hour for the future. But primarily, the bigger problem is that the level of awareness in terms of the water consumption and my contribution to ensure the recharging of the water, that is where we are falling short. Everyone knows about rainwater harvesting. Everyone knows about how to recharge a watershed in terms of the structures to be taken. Everyone knows what is to be done for a well recharging, blah, this, that, and all that. But when it comes to the practical element, like speaking about the Indian scenario, and especially about the Maharashtra scenario, then obviously your agriculture or your cropping pattern should be related or should be absolutely linked to the water availability. Is it so? No. So we have cases where people are taking up crops which are very high water consuming crops, in spite of having a record of a drought or a water scarcity in every 5 years or 6 years. What is it? A crime? Who will say so? The moment any political leader or anyone would raise up the issue, I think he or she is not going to get elected for the next 5 or 10 years. I've been in the field for almost 26 years, so I can vouch for it. Having worked as a municipal commissioner in Nagpur for 2.5, at Thane for 5.5 years, and then obviously as a divisional commissioner, collector, and whatever be it for more than 10 years, whether it's Aurangabad, or Nagpur, or Chandrapur, Nasik. Things are still the same. We don't want to change. So the point is that if your cropping pattern is not related to your water availability, you don't have a legislation in place, how are you going to control the consumption of water. I am not going to the further part. I'll just mention about it maybe once I conclude. I'm just talking on the part of how do you reduce your demand, especially when you know that the supply is limited for XYZ reasons. Obviously, the new buzz is there that when you have ocean water or sea water available, why don't you take that water and you go in for desalination plant? When I was a Thane commissioner, I had finalized a pilot project for a 20 MLD, and when I was in BMC as an additional commissioner, I was working with a 200 MLD pilot project for Mumbai. But here also there's a catch. The moment we say desalination, the cost of water, whether it is with electricity or without electricity, increases. Now, what is the experience till now when you see about the recovery and the water charges? The water charges that are levied in the first place is less than the operation and maintenance cost. Recovery is even lesser. For the conventional water supply scheme, the moment you bring in desalination, it's because it's a costlier capex. And even the OPEX part, because electricity is a very big component in running a desalination plant, it inevitably means that the price of water to be charged to the customer will increase. And we are not yet in a mindset what we are used to paying or getting it free of cost. And if we all of a sudden we were to say that you have to pay higher price, I personally feel that that is still a distant goal. And secondly, obviously, the limitation is that desalination is an opportunity only for those cities or only for those villages which are close to the coastal area. So the moment you go in the continental part, inside, there this solution can't be worked out. So if supply is limited and demand is unregulated, what is the solution? The solution is that let's do one thing. We should have, you pay as per your consumption. So, आपने जितना पानी यूज किया उतना पैसा आप दीजिए, हमने कम यूज किया हम कम पैसा देंगे. For that, what do you need in place? For that, you need in place what we say smart metering, whether it is automated, semi-automated, or whatever be it. Now, urban areas, like I was Nagpur commissioner when we went into the 24/7. So like I feel proud about the fact that it was during my tenure that 24/7 started as a city. In urban areas, yes, it is an idea which is explorable, doable, provided the financial situation of the corporation is good enough. But in the rural areas, it's a distant dream. Metering is not possible for the next 10 to 20 years, at least for a country like ours. The moment you don't have metering and you have a flat rate system, I'm least bothered. I can keep the tap open for donkey hours till the water is coming. It doesn't make a difference. I will just be charged 50 rupees or 100 rupees per month, whatever is the rates which has been fixed by the concerned Gram Panchayat or the local authority. So, though we know the solution, that the consumption, if it is priced, then maybe I may have a tendency to consume only till that much that I actually need and do not consume what is I would term as a wastage. Now, the moment we say wastage of water, how do you assess? Then again, you have to go to the terms UFW, NRW, unaccounted for water. What is your NRW? So the World Bank fixed a norm. You're saying that, okay, this city has so much NRW, it should be less than 30%, blah, blah, blah. Even if I know my NRW, even if I know my UFW, how do I control it? See, being a secretary of the rural Maharashtra, so obviously I look after water supply of rural Maharashtra, so I would focus more on my presentation on that. So then the solution comes, no, see, the pipelines have become very old. The distribution network has got weaned out. It needs replacement. Now here we are in a situation where there are still many villages, many pockets in the city which do not have a pipeline water supply. What we say a non-PWS. So obviously the priority would be to cover the non-PWS area vis-a-vis cover those PWS area which just needs an upgradation, especially when your capital is limited. So in spite of knowing your NRW, in spite of knowing your UFW, you are not in a position to tackle the issue for the simple reason that it's a classic case of what I say, that that you just have one medicine or two medicines and the number of people who are unwell is very high. Welcome, Velarasu. So in light of all this, if I put it in a very snapshot, what I just mentioned was that supply is limited, demand is unregulated, limitation of resources for working out the solutions which you identify, consumption not being metered is not yet a priority for most of the villages and even the small towns and cities. Regulations and legislations not being in place, or even if being in place, not being enforced to limit the use of water, especially in terms of agriculture as per the availability. And obviously the last point is the lack of the political will, which ultimately gets reflected in the way the administration works, to prioritize water, accept and admit that it's a scarce resource, and whether we like it or we don't like it, we need to take harsh decisions. So this is the unstructured football match which went on till maybe first half and almost 35 minutes of the last 45 minutes. The 10 minutes, you still stand a chance to score a goal. So now let's come to the 10 minutes. Having said all this, it's not that things can't improve. It's not that the situation would remain the same as it is. There was a time when we were fighting to provide 30 LPCD water in the rural areas. Today we are talking about a situation where we are planning to implement 55 liter per capita per person. City areas from 70 to 105 to 130 to 145 and so on. So obviously it's not that, in spite of all the conservatism mentioned about by me, people have not become aware of water as a scarce commodity. People have not taken efforts for the recharging or into the rooftop, or whether it's the rainwater harvesting. Lot of efforts has been taken over the last few years for the strengthening or the enhancement of the watershed, which definitely has brought down the numbers of so-called critical or semi-critical pockets less. Schemes like Atal Bhujal Yojana, which is again primarily to address the water problems of highly overexploited water zones. Interventions by the state government like Shifkalin's Pani Sathwan Yojana, which is basically trying to promote more of recharging and harvesting the last drop of the rain that falls. The Ministry of Jal Shakti has kept a new slogan saying that catch the rain. So these are all efforts which are basically trying to see that the supply side limitation of water not being able to increase does lead to an increase in supply, and at the same time the demand problems which I mentioned being curtailed. Along with this, the concept of the triple R, like the recycle, reuse of water, reduce, recycle and reuse. So now many cities have started talking about or have started implementing projects for the recycling and reuse of water. So basically the needs of water for non-drinking purpose is met out through the water available from the grey water that is otherwise going off through the canals or the nalas into the sea or the river. And for the first time in the history of this country, that when it has come to the so-called the whole genesis of Swachhata, cleanliness, so now in the SBM phase 2, which is being implemented in the rural areas, this concept of grey water management has started. So that's where the ray of hope is there, that with the grey water management, definitely the availability of the so-called potable water, in spite of not an increase in the precipitation, can be a possibility if implemented in the proper sense. Now, over the years, the climate change and the pattern of the vagaries of the seasons takes place. There are pockets which were traditionally receiving high rainfalls have started receiving less rainfall. There are pockets which used to not get rainfalls are getting floods. So it is here where this climate changes and whatever is your CAP, the climate action plan that we're talking about, and at the same time the climate resilience measures to tackle unforeseen any natural disaster is equally important. And these are the new terminology which has come into discussion as far as the government and the administration is concerned. So, though we were on the losing side, yet the last minute dribbling by the front players with the support of the center line kept the goalkeeper at ease, and he or she was had the opportunity of seeing the team score at that side of the goalpost. So it all depends on all of us sitting here, that if we focus on the limited way that we are wherever we are, to either increase the supply or get the demand decreased. Trust me, that is what is water sustainability. Otherwise, jargons of this concept, this what we are doing, this ये तो करने के लिए बहुत बोलने, मैंने कहा ना कि घंटों तक बोल सकता हूँ. Water, waste water तो has become a subject of my expertise. But only basic is supply को बढ़ाइए और demand को कमाइए. Water sustainability will follow, and at the same time, involvement of the people, involvement of the masses is very important. So now that shift there, whereby we say that the planning for what I need to do for my village is done by the VWSC in the form of the VAPs, the village action plans which they make, is the beginning in that direction. So thank you
Thank you so much, Sanjeev Jaiswal, for sharing with us a pragmatic view and playing the role of referee. I must say that it was practical, insightful, and great. A simple thing, the most toughest thing which needs to be done, you have said in a simple word that increase the supply and reduce the demand. You're done with sustainability of water. Technology and everything will be there to be leveraged. But, and obviously us, we all have to come together to make that difference, that we have to all be responsible to realize the importance of water, and then only this country can move ahead in the right direction in terms of sustainable water management. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of the inaugural session of the Sustainable Water Management Conclave. I request Sangamita Mondri to come on stage and hand over the special token of appreciation to the chief guest, Mr. Sanjeev Jaiswal, Principal Secretary, Water Supply and Sanitation Department, Govt of Maharashtra. A huge round of applause for him, please.